Well, hopefully this is the last time you see me on this side of the desk, because I'm usually over there. And this hopefully is the last time you see Connor in the NAL at all. We can just get him out of here because this is the last game of
I mean, it seems like you really want to get rid of me. You exposed me for being on like a tiny plank when he's on a 5-inch
because
box.
It's funny.
There's no proof of that.
My plank's like this big. Like this is the difference.
Look, we had to clarify this going into the next segment.
This is the difference. Jesse is on like this big. Yeah, look, you can see
how
much, you can see how much bigger it is.
Seems like fake news. I don't know.
Literally the same height that Jess needs for every international event. Call it.
It's the Jays.
It is the Jays. Connor is not one of the Jays, therefore he will be excised.
My first name is indeed Joseph.
True. Okay, fine. Jacob, Jesse, Joseph, back with you on the North American League Analyst Desk. Playday 6, 1 game left to go. This one still with some very future major implications for one of the teams, and the other one's just looking to see if they can't get 2 wins on the week as opposed to just 1. DarkZero against the Soniqs. What are we thinking initially? Obviously, 2 very different stories for both squads, but DZ, now because the top 4 is kind of beginning to pull away from the rest of the pack, do DarkZero need this one in order to like make sure they don't get completely swept away?
Yeah, I mean, here's the problem, right? Sure, the Soniqs are looking better right now, and yeah, maybe DZ will struggle in this one. It's hard to say, right? But every other team in the league got their free win against the Soniqs. So Soniqs are now finally looking good. DZ need that win as well to try to contest it up for those major spots. So if DarkZero come through and they end up losing this game, that's a free win that everybody else got in the league, but they just didn't.
You're saying they're looking good. The only time they looked good was against Mirage, who decidedly have not looked good overall.
Yeah, sure. Like Mirage played bad, but I think that Soniqs still like showed pretty decent, a decent showing in that matchup. So yeah, I think Soniqs are like a decent team, and I think they can definitely play a good game against DarkZero. We'll have to find out, but yeah.
Similar philosophy with your temp duo?
Yeah, I completely agree. Soniqs, they're a team that you can never really, completely write off because their playstyle does lend itself to a natural counter of the NA style. Because, they get aggressive. And when they can actually land their shots, they're a scary, scary team. And even though we've kind of talked about this matchup a lot, the last time that they truly played was that BO3 at NAL Finals, and Jacob, who came out on top.
Gee, I wonder who that was. Oh yeah, the ones who can't stop saying how they are NAL champions, the Soniqs. But we'll start with them in this lineup. Obviously, biggest amount of question marks coming into this week was whether they would get anything done against Mirage. They did take care of business, but that thing needs to duplicate itself over and over and over again. They're not focused on going anywhere else in this stage aside from just trying to increase their own stock, their own worth, prove that what happened over the past couple of weeks is just the idea of starting really slow, not being able to get used to meta changes. But that win against Mirage does seem as though it puts them on the right track. Can they do it against a team that's like the NA style personified in DarkZero?
I think they got a shot. I really do. I think the Soniqs, despite the fact that they played against a fairly weak opponent yesterday, they still had a really strong showing. It felt like old Soniqs were back. It wasn't that like the super roams we were seeing in the last couple of weeks were suddenly working because they were against poorer opponents. They were having the usual suspects showing up and finding a lot of impact. Rexon was having a huge impact. Yeti was there. Grixer, man on your screen right now, had a fantastic match on attack on Nook. So I feel like the Soniqs were kind of back on their own form. Yeah, it'll be more difficult now they're playing against DarkZero, but I still think they got it in them for another win.
Yeah, I completely agree once again because maybe not for the another win. That's a little bit far. You almost caught me.
I think they have it in them. Not that they will get it for sure, but potential is there.
The potential is indeed here because, I mean, hey, they are bouncing back. And once again, that game yesterday against Mirage was not really a Mirage loss. That was 100% a Soniqs win that they earned, and you cannot discredit them because, once again, it was like we finally had that little bit of familiarity. We saw the old Soniqs resurging. It's like they're out of their slump, but we don't quite know if they're out of the hills fully yet.
Looks like the energy was also back too. The bite seemed like it was actually in Soniqs and it wasn't just the bark. They took a couple seconds to regroup maybe after a couple of rounds and realized they can ride off the momentum, especially when they got a couple rounds under their belt. In that game against Mirage, it was nice to see old Soniqs back. It just didn't happen for very long because that game didn't exactly last for very long.
Yeah, I think that Soniqs, like, we saw everybody back gelling in their old form, and this is really what we want to see with them going forward because they have struggled all stage long. I don't think it was perfect. I think on defense, they struggled a little bit when Mirage's pushes became somewhat less one-dimensional. Yeah. When there were more pinches coming through on defense, they weren't really finding super successful rounds. On attack, it was pretty good. There was one round they lost where they tried to push Aviator without going below, and they got kind of screwed from like some bottom red pressure as big C4 from Thomas. But all in all, it it did feel like they were pretty solid in their fundamentals. They had to rely on a few clutches for sure. There were some problems letting attackers get into their bomb sites before they should, but generally I thought Soniqs still played well.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, when you can have Super getting off of a bomb plant on triple zeros, finishing it up, and then landing the nastiest flick of the AK-12,
nice.
You're always going to be feeling good. Especially when you're just barely dropping any rounds, and the rounds you are dropping, it's like a slight misplay. It's not like the throwback to the earlier Soniqs where we would see plays that just seemed so incredibly un-Soniqs-like, just poor decision-making at the most fundamental level.
At the very least, we mentioned Yeti was always a playmaker, and he continued that flow even if the Soniqs for some reason weren't able to get anything done. But in that game against Mirage, he of all people seemed like he woke up. We got a couple highlights here, 2 back-to-back rounds highlighting the focus of Yeti and how good he was in that game against Mirage.
Yeah, Yeti's just a gunner. This is the 1v2 that he was playing on round number 3. They have no idea where he's at. Look at those pings that they've got as well. Hard pings, yellow pings as well, both coming through. Boop, boop. Getting both of the planter and Tommy, who's trying to watch out for him. And then this is another play where Super's on those stairs. Super dies, which makes Mirage think it's clear, but no, Yeti is still there. Jumps up for 1, jumps up for 2. Now Super, who's behind Yeti, checks to the bottom whilst down, dies to Benji, makes that call. Yeti turns around, finds the frag anyways. Beautifully done, and the coordination that Yeti finds with the rest of his teammate certainly coming in clutch.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things was probably the shift in direction for the side of Soniqs, where I don't quite know if it's just Mirage or really struggling with their drone intel on the attacking side, but at least against the Soniqs game, they were hunting and they were killing at least 7 or 8 drones per game, and that all of a sudden brought Yeti's confidence, which is already, his confidence is already up there. It's like 7 or 8 out of 10. Then he cranked it right off into an 11 and was feeling so good, enough to swing 2 players at once on 5 HP with the MP5.
Yeah, I mean, he got loud too. That's the big thing that's been missing with the Soniqs. We saw Yeti jumping up, screaming at the opponents, calling Mirage bad, and I'm sure other words. That's what we need to see from the Soniqs, and that's what we finally saw yesterday.
And that is not the only player on the Soniqs who was getting up and getting hyped, because his compatriot, the guy that he hypes up, and also there's that infamous gif of one jumping into the other player's arms when they were in EU United colors, Grixer, he also had a fantastic game against Mirage, showing up in very even spades. He was the one that had an even arguably slowest start on the team, even though Rexon's also on this lineup, but look at what he was able to do in these back-to-back.
Yeah, this Yokai player with the Echo was able to get so much value. 2 kills already in this round. They just don't seem to know where he's at, but he's hitting every single shot. They don't even know where the possibilities come from. And then the Nook play, I thought was the key thing. This is a 2v4. He jumps through. They don't see him coming through China. A big issue that Mirage were struggling with. He's able to get forward, get this into 3 kills, pushes it to a 1v1. This is the Super play that you were talking about, CDAPS. Incredible that Super wins that.
That right there, that's Mr. 1.6. That's the man we love.
That's him.
For Grixer, 7 kills, 7 deaths. I mean, hey, when you're starting off a little bit slow, but you can just pop off at any moment's notice. A 2v4 situation on an attack is never fun. You have a Nook, not the best gun, and you have Super who needs to plant the bomb. And essentially that becomes the 1v4. To take out 3 people, absolutely ludicrous.
It feels really good to talk about the Soniqs in a positive context, considering the slump they've been in. You're looking at a team that's still 5th through 6th at the 6th Invitational. Huge downward trend, but now there's at least something that we can look at and be like, hey, this was good. Only problem is the quality of opponent that they faced is considerably less. And I'm not just saying that based on the way Mirage played. I'm looking at Mirage versus their current opponents in DarkZero, looking at where they're at on the scoreboard and realizing this is going to be a tougher task than maybe they were anticipating.
Yeah, I mean, even go back to those clips that we just saw, and like a couple of those flanks coming in through China, that probably should have been seen by Mirage. I don't think DarkZero are going to let Soniqs get away with quite as much, but that doesn't mean that there's not opportunity. DZ certainly have some flaws for their own side. They did manage to get a win yesterday in a pretty big match against TSM. You could maybe make the same point that that's kind of a weaker opponent so far in the NAL. CDAPS, I don't know, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you were saying that everybody gets their free run against the Soniqs. It seems like Oprah Winfrey just signed with TSM, and she's saying, you get a win and you get a win. Everybody's getting 3 points against the boys in black and white. But for DZ, they're still an insanely good roster. You can never put it past them. They have so much passion. You're led by Canadian. You have a roster that is finally meshed together and looks so good. And on a wide variety of maps, look explosive and always can keep it close.
I don't really know what we're going to see out of DarkZero in this game. I did call them the NA style personified, which I feel like every time we think of North America, we'll think sometimes it's slow if it means the structure is there. Sometimes the formula exists. You understand that there is a step-by-step process. DarkZero have usually taken that exact idea to task. It feels like it's a similar situation here. Is that going to work against the Soniqs, a team that is typically, can sometimes be explosive, someone on a roam that you're not expecting? DarkZero are meticulous. Will they drone every corner against a team like the Soniqs?
See, I think they might, and we talk a lot about DarkZero and their defense, because according to the stats, they are like a very strong defensive team. They've actually had a better win rate on defense, but I do prefer their attacks. I think that the way that, Pamba lets that LMG sing on Finka, we saw that the other day against TSM, we saw it earlier against Mirage. It feels like their adaptations are very, very strong as well on attack. That was very clear against Beast Coast, and then Hyper. Kind of an underwhelming SI, right? A player that we kind of hype up as DZ's trap card, their best player. He was only +3 through 211 rounds at the 6th Invitational. But the roles he's been able to fill for DarkZero this year, for me, has made them their MVP once again. I really like the way that Hyper's been pushing, and especially on attack, it really feels like this is where DarkZero is starting to shine once again.
Yeah, and even with Canadian kind of just making sure and enabling somebody like Hyper to find himself into the positions to be successful, that's the caliber of IGL that we come to see with the side of DZ. I mean, hey, your support players, you always have Eclipse. Eclipse is phenomenal. NJR can do anything. You already talked about Pamba letting the LMG sing. It's when you go down this roster, you're like, huh, where's there a weak link? Where are we supposed to try to attack?
Well, one area they have struggled is that opening pick rate. They've really, really struggled to be able to get those opening couple of engagements. I think their stats right now, 34% opening pick rate, the worst in the league.
Really?
So, yeah, that was before this week, so that doesn't include last week's stats, but still, it's been a big struggle for them. Hyper was the only positive player on entry for this team, 4-0 in their last game against Astralis. So, yeah, big moments there.
Yeah, and if we go through and eventually we'll be able to factor in those stats from yesterday into the overall conversation and then answer the question, why was there a rumor about Eclipse just retiring a couple of months ago? It feels like he is really a huge part about this team's success. However, the map bans are in.
So not surprising bans start this off. Clubhouse has been very bad for DarkZero. It's also one that the Soniqs have been successful in the past with, so fair enough. Then we get a Skyscraper ban, DZ permaban Sky. They've never played it. The Cafe as well coming through for the Soniqs. This is a map that they have permabanned ever since the lineup formed. Theme Park, another map that Soniqs have permabanned since it came into the pool at the start of the stage. Villa out for DarkZero, another one that Soniqs have won so far this stage. DZ definitely a lot shakier, 1-1, their only win being an overtime game against Beast Coast. And then Oregon coming through from the Soniqs, another one that has just been really rough for SQ. They've lost it twice so far in this stage.
Yeah, and it's really scary because, that used to be the Soniqs map. They used to be the steel curtain defenses, but recently it kind of rusted and eroded away. And the Chalet ban from DZ makes a lot of sense considering Soniqs, they do feel comfort towards Chalet. And, sometimes with the Soniqs, a lot of the questions is their shallow map pool. They will pick maybe 5 maps at most in a best of 9. Usually 4 in a BO7.
Right.
And when you can manipulate it away and, just kind of ban away the Chalet, that's one of their strong maps. And now the bank goes away because DZ, they're pretty good at it. The Soniqs haven't really lended themselves. And now we see a border, which has been left up for the Soniqs a couple of times. So they have the willingness to go here, but it's finally being called by DZ.
Feels like we're seeing both of these teams kind of ban the maps that they're not really comfortable playing, and I think that does speak to the fact that these teams have kind of struggled in the last couple of weeks. Soniqs more than DarkZero, but DZ certainly still having a bit of a rough time recently. But Border is a map that neither of these teams have ever played, so it'll be the first play for both of them.
I mean, maybe except back in the old Classics days. I mean,
doesn't even count.
The Soniqs teams back when they were Pittsburgh Embers, maybe we would have seen that in Challenger League, like season 10 under Obey Alliance?
Gang.
That doesn't even count as the same map because you could just hold everything from the skylight as opposed to actually having to put your boots on the ground and taking 30 seconds.
That's the best part of the border
stairs nowadays.
But they took the skylight away and added a balcony, so are we really at that point?
No, now you just have to take 3 steps in the building and take east stairs control.
Well, good luck getting into the building because that's the problem with this map. If you don't get into the building, you don't win anything. So defensive rounds matter a considerable amount more. But for the last time today, let's get some predictions underway and see if we're catching up at all with the coins percentage and see what the casters think. Jonah, Carter, so far, been a blast having you on with us this weekend for the last time. What are you guys thinking for this matchup?
Thank you, Jacob. I don't know about this one. The NAL Finals rematch we've got on our hands, Carter. I mean, I'll go with your opinion first, I guess.
I'm going to be honest. I think it's Pampa party time today. I think DZ are coming out on top with it. Because here's the thing, right? SQ got their first win of the entire stage yesterday. And to the desk, as the desk said, it wasn't just, oh, you know, a win over Mirage. They did look a lot more like the SQ that we know and the SQ that we love. However, going into this, one, I think DZ, they're in a prime spot to try and break into that top 4, though the standings have shifted a little bit over the course of the day. I think DZ are looking good on the trajectory they're on to take this win today, and I'm also, to be honest, I'm just not comfortable putting stock in the Soniqs just yet, but hey, if they win today, not only will I regret not picking them, but also I'm probably going to be predicting them a lot more in the future.
That is fair. They are, you know, in theory, they're on the up and up after they got one win under their belt. Maybe they're going to keep doing that. I am inclined to agree with you, though. I think DZ have this one. I was a little surprised, I'll admit, to see them go to Border. It doesn't strike me as a DarkZero favored map.
Yeah.
It's generally a map that has a lot of aggression, a lot of fast-paced action, and DarkZero are probably the slowest-paced team we have in the NAL right now. So as surprised as I was, I do still think that DarkZero have the edge. Soniqs, I don't think one win under their belt is enough to give me confidence in their ability to play out the rest of the stage and get this win.
Look, I appreciate the super drawn-out explanations, gentlemen, but realize that you still have your names attached to the casters who you are temp replacing today. So if you really wanted to keep on tanking their prediction rate, if you wanted to change everything up, now is the time. You don't. It's your last game. You don't have to take this as seriously if you don't want to.
You know what? Yeah, he's got a point. Nick, I'm sorry. I'm going Soniqs.
Wow.
Let's go. You swapping it? Yep.
Yeah.
You swapping it.
I'm going. You know, you make a good point. Last BO1, I'm flying home tomorrow. Like, Nick, I'm sorry. I got to do it. But hey, if I'm right,
Jonah,
I'm
please
right,
do it
I'm right
with him.
big.
Please, I swear to God, do
I
it.
will not be changing this. No, my bit last time I was here is that I had a better prediction rate than Pengu, and I am going to maintain that as best I can.
I'm fighting for you right now.
See, look at that. I'm turning talent against one another. Boys, thank you very much. We'll come back to you in a second. God, I love this. I love just ruining other people's chances at a high prediction rate that quick.
I mean, you can bait the new guys, Jacob, but I don't think you're gonna bait me. I'm going with the safe pick today. I've already screwed over one of my game's predictions. I think I'm gonna go DZ this time. Soniqs, you know, they're just not quite there yet for me.
I'm gonna be in the same boat. I'll just take DZ. I don't think they're as good as the Soniqs right now. I think DZ are a better team. I'll keep it simple, stupid. I'm not calling you that.
Yes.
Even though, you know, on broadcast that might be okay, but I'm not about to risk it. I'm just saying it for the sake of the phrase, Connor.
Yes, so the thing is, I represent the coin, and the coin did tell me that you are wrong, and it is going for the Soniqs.
Oh, dear God.
It has joined Carter all the way over there. Don't know how impressionable a coin can possibly be, but I guess that's kind of how you make it. You take the hot metal and then
I mean, it is
make an
a physical
on it.
impression,
It's a
right?
physical impression, so it's pretty impressionable.
You know what, that works.
So hey, Soniqs, technically not that much of an underdog in this matchup.
At least according to the coin.
Yes.
Which, again, still didn't need to be here, but it still is. Thanks, Doa. You'll be back next week, and I can thank you in person for this favor that you've done the rest of us. I don't even know what to say anymore. Anyway, we do still have one more game that we need to get to, and in the meanwhile, there's a break that we got to get to before that. So, break, game, then we'll wrap up the day, then we'll come back next week. Let's get this one underway in just a couple minutes. Don't go anywhere.
I'm nice, you know I'm alright. Looking like Christ, no need for the hype or fight or telephone vipers. No need for the telephone vipers. No need for the liars. I don't watch your moves or priors. I got much to do, I'm biased. Big bosses move in silence, watch it. No need for the liars. I don't watch your moves or priors. I got much to do, I'm biased. Big bosses move in silence. Yeah, me, I'm moving quiet. Ask me, I need me an island. New watch is perfect timing. No need for the surface shining. Ask me, I need me a few. I need me an island. I'm keeping it true. The man, I'm a wild, I'm keeping it cool. No need for the telephone hype from you. Yeah, tell a man no trouble. I don't want beef, man. I just want vibes. Big man like me, no need for the telephone hype. I got too much getting online. One rule, then I'm on side. Wrong move, I bet they gon' ride. No need for the telephone hype. Yeah, tell a man no trouble. I don't want beef, man. I just want vibes. Big man like me, no need for the telephone hype. I got too much getting online. One rule, then I'm on side. Wrong move, I bet they gon' ride. No need for the telephone hype. Yeah. Till a man no trouble. I don't want beef, man, I just want vibes. Big man like me, no need for the telephone hype. I got too much getting online. One rule, then dead I'm on side. Wrong move, I bet they gon' ride. No need for the telephone hype, nah.
You can try, but I won't stop, won't stop. Won't stop. Won't stop. Won't stop. You can try, but I won't stop, won't stop. I can't be stopped now, I can't stop. I can't be stopped now, I can't stop. I can't be stopped now, I can't stop. You can try, but I won't stop, won't stop. Lions, tigers, bears are my king of the jungle, I stand for the pride. Beat on my chest, that's the rhythm inside. I got so much heart, I'm burning with fire. Can't stop, won't stop till I drop. Keep climbing for the top. Simmer down, you too loud, people around. You can try, but I won't stop, won't stop. Won't stop. Won't stop. Won't stop. You can try, but I won't stop, won't stop. I can't be stopped now, I can't stop. I can't be stopped now, I can't stop. I can't be stopped now, I can't stop. You can try, but I won't stop, won't stop. No more sleep till I rest in peace. No excuse till I die. No to all negativity. This is how we were living free. Come to anyone who wants to celebrate from where they came to the outcome. Then from now, what a change. Pick at the pace, no way I can slow it down. Give me a minute of your time, I can guarantee all things work for who believe. All it takes is the faith of a mustard seed. Who can stop what was meant for me? For me, yeah, it's for me.
An NAL Finals rematch from 2021, but Carter, it feels a lot different.
It does feel very different. New maps, some new faces, but overall, Soniqs, who ended up winning the NAL Finals last year, just got their first win yesterday. I tweeted, by the way, they have a 100% win percentage when you and I are casting, so looking good for them right now to try and reclaim some of that former glory.
Yeah, maybe this is their chance, right? Get another win under their belt while we're still in the booth. And, you know, DarkZero, they aren't infallible. They are a team that has looked like they have a fair share of issues to still work out as the stage progresses. And honestly, I think a map like Border is perfect for the Soniqs. They had that decision. Do they want to go to Bank? Do they want to take DarkZero to Border? And in terms of overall play styles, it does feel, at least historically, that the Soniqs have the ability to play a little bit more flexible, a little bit more loose on a loose map like Border than DarkZero might.
I would certainly agree with that. One thing that separated the Soniqs from a lot of the NAL teams last year, and especially them on the attack, was Soniqs were a lot more lurkers than a lot of the NAL, where teams like DarkZero especially are the maxim of structured play. Soniqs, like you said, they like to mix things up. They like to get a little loose, but they were a lot more, again, lurkers when it came to getting those entries and getting those picks, and a lot of that identity has been lost going into this stage. But Border historically tends to favor that play style a lot more. As Connor also mentioned on the desk, to be fair though, the nice thing about Border, especially in the early round, you just do a couple things and you get a lot of map control, and that's something that DZ should probably excel a lot in because it's very minimal cost but maximum return.
Well, we talked about Soniqs' game yesterday. A lot of other games that happened yesterday, and if you're interested in checking them out, you can still take a look at those Playday 5 VODs, which are all uploaded onto our VOD channel on YouTube. That's Rainbow Six Esports. So check that out after today's Playday concludes. There was a lot of action yesterday. We've already talked about how amazing that OXG SSG game was as well, but Soniqs Mirage also fun to watch. You can see, if you're a fan of the Soniqs, get their first win under their belt. But back, of course, to the game we have in front of us today, focusing on if Soniqs can continue that success, if they can continue to put together those things that were working for them yesterday. They really did feel more like the Soniqs of old. It wasn't clean, let's just put it that way, but their entry was refined. Grixer started to find the scoreboard again. Kansan showing up. Even Super had a pretty good performance.
And one thing that SQ definitely struggled with, or at least struggled with in dealing with other teams like Beast Coast, like XET, was they would give those teams a lot of room to breathe, and they would immediately fill the vacuum pretty soon after they either left the area or were never in it in the first place. DarkZero aren't that kind of team. I believe, as you mentioned earlier, DarkZero, one of the slowest teams on attack, which is certainly, and has certainly been true for quite a long time. So SQ have a lot just more room to function, but also if they want to play more on the site, DZ aren't going to send things at them in the first 45 seconds to a minute. They're probably not necessarily stalling out, but they're going to take their time with things, and that'll give SQ, even if maybe they slump back a little bit to their pre-Mirage performance yesterday, they won't face nearly as many issues as they did in some of those earlier best of ones.
Well, we also had a chance to talk to Grixer and talk to Yeti between yesterday's game and today, seeing, what exactly they think was the reason behind their success. And if we are seeing the Soniqs at a turning point, are they going to use this point as, a springboard for the rest of the stage to get some more wins under their belt? They were honest with us, and they expressed a little bit of uncertainty, but they emphasized that it wasn't necessarily what they were doing in game that changed. It was more of the vibes and that team camaraderie that we saw improve.
And that's one of those things that when you're looking at a team's performance from, well, a viewer's perspective or even our perspective sometimes, it's incredibly hard to gauge. I mean, we have these at this hour or so where we can see them on camera, see how they're interacting with each other, but beyond that, it's something that pretty much exclusively happens behind closed doors, and it's hard to gauge, in that case, how it's affecting a team, what it's like. Now here, of course, very odd to say this, but if you do want to take a look, see how the vibes are improving, take a look after they win or lose a round, see how they're reacting on camera, and maybe that's something they're improving. I know, talking about Grixer, he said that they felt yesterday's match was a turning point for them overall, going in towards the rest of the stage and going to DarkZero here. If this is a turning point, getting a win over what has been a upper half team in the NAL so far would certainly be a good way to get your second victory.
Well, as much as Soniqs, and this is a turning point for them, I mean, we gotta still talk about how important this is for DarkZero, because for the first time in a while, they are on the verge of breaking themselves out of the middle of the pack, right? They're just about to bridge that top 4, top 5 area, and they would love, that these players would love to make a statement as they close out the first stage of 2022.
Yeah, of course, DarkZero have had a lot of success. I mean, they were in that NAL finals last year, just barely losing it out to Soniqs, but when you think about teams in the NAL, especially this stage, you've got SSG, you've got OXG, you've got a lot of big names, and, well, of course, you also had TSM, but that was before they started having their current performance issues, but DarkZero haven't come up in conversation as much. They've been a little bit more towards that middle of the pack, just in terms of discussion, but also in terms of results, and that is unfortunate given that there are so many good players on this roster, and when they are working together and everything is going in sync, and when they get their plan in action, this roster can be extremely scary to watch and to play against. I mean, Connor mentioned on the desk, Eclipse, when he is on, he can be a complete showstopper in the server. Hyper has been a name and made a name for himself for quite a long time. NJR, one of the youngest members of this roster, second only to Panba. Again, shout out to one of the CL boys. This is an incredibly important match for DarkZero. Overall, just for this stage in particular, to set themselves a little bit above that middle of the pack where they've been hovering for a good couple playdays now.
And I like that you mentioned some of the players specifically, because we've also seen, this shift in DarkZero from being, a core that struggles in getting on the board and getting those frags to, at least this stage, a roster that is developing that more and more. We saw Panba heat up a ton in that first week of play, and it's really been Eclipse, Hyper, and NJR putting up numbers as we progressed through the rest of these playdays. And, if they can put that performance up today, I mean, to be fair, they're going to need to. It is Border. It is a frag-heavy map that we are going to be diving into in just a moment. Our players seem to be ready to go, so we can dive into our lobby and see exactly what kind of Border we've got in store for us.
I believe for both you and I, this is our first time casting Border.
Yeah, since
quite a long
return
time.
of the map, it's going to be an exciting one.
I've actually not casted a new map at all in CL since the map edition, so I'm actually quite excited for this game because of that reason, and we'll see how the op bans shape those out. First ban up, Thatcher. I mean, overall, just for maps in general, completely checks out. For Soniqs, completely checks out. For Border, completely checks out. Now let's see if DarkZero or if they decide to maybe change things up a little bit. Maybe get the Flores off the board. You don't want to worry about those Rotero drones. Maybe take a Finka off, not worrying about that LMG or those grenades. A couple different options here, but no, instead it'll be the Maverick. Now normally in response we'll see a Cade ban taken off, but if that gets left up by DZ or the Soniqs, that could be a big risky play.
They were quick on this ban, so I would assume it is those Electroclaws taken off the board, but no, it's going to be the Mira instead, leaving the Cade ban up to the Soniqs unless, like you said, they want to take that pretty sizable risk. Looks like they will by removing the Valkyrie and removing the intel she can bring to the table, but like you said, this is dangerous for both of these teams, especially for DarkZero. Starting out on the attacking side, they're going to have to work their way in the building without the EMPs of the Thatcher, not too unusual, but now without the breaching torch of the Maverick to avoid the electricity that those Electro Claws bring, they could be stalled out quite a bit.
Well, Border is a map that's similar to Bank in that for the defense, it can be and feel very restrictive when you're playing. It's very hard to play on site on, well, some of these bomb sites. So even though the Cade is still up, you don't have the Thatcher or the Maverick to take those Electroclaws down, it's still something that honestly might just bring the defensive side, at least again based on how this map is constructed, more towards the equilibrium, because playing on site can be very difficult, and having those Electroclaws might be able to go a long way. Another operator we see a lot on Border, Castle coming through, Yeti bringing him out. I know they talked on the desk, and it's certainly true how easy it is to acquire map control. You just go up east stairs, put down an Osa shield, and you've got basically a key lane on the map covered. Not only do we see the Osa, we actually see quite a lot of changes coming in the attacking lineup. Ying and a Glass Jonah coming out.
Yeah, we're seeing a big change from DarkZero and what looks to be an aggressive attacker lineup to say the least here. And I am loving this from DarkZero, and honestly, this first round is going to be very important to see how DarkZero are going to approach this map as a whole. Are they going to play the DarkZero old-fashioned methodical style of Siege, or are they going to get aggressive and just send it into the bomb site with those Candelas and with the Glaz at the helm? Unfortunately, for DarkZero to kick off the map, they're going to lose a body. Panba at that, the Buck, the skeleton key, a vital component of soft destruction on a site like this, lost to a well-timed spawn peek from Yeti.
I'm excited. If this is the pace we're going with, Jonah, if this is the kind of matchup we're going to have, I'm glad Yeti showed us that. Have that being the first kill, this should be a good one in store. While the Buck is gone, you don't have that vertical soft destruction anymore. You can't go below inside of Workshop to say open up the floor in Armory. You still have some of the big players that we were looking at. You still have that Glass with those smokes. You have the Ying with those smokes and those Candelas, and Eclipse on that Osa with that shield. But with NJR prepped with the Gone, he'll open up Archive's window very quick. That's another key position that the attack must hold if they want to put maximum pressure on these site players.
Well, Kansan, feeling that pressure, throws out that C4, but comes up with nothing. NJR not even taking a lick of damage, and DarkZero using that to just send it on in. Here comes Canadian. He'll just run it on through the sandwich window. Candela's at the helm. Smokes to cover his entry. You can see Soniqs scrambling around to get back to sight, but Canadian, he goes unnoticed. Grixer on his Yokai drone, gets caught completely off guard. Eclipse getting this plant down. Here's the coverage from Hyper, but he's missing all of his shots. The Osa shield, it can't protect the planter for that long, and Hyper, leaving his teammate out to dry, is now the last player for DarkZero standing. He's the one now caught between a rock and a hard place. He has to find 3 defenders. He's got ample time to do it, but a quick turn of events and a missed coverage by Hyper gives Soniqs the edge.
Canadian able to work his way into sight like that and get such a big kill on the Echo, and for all of it to be squandered, not necessarily because of major mistakes made by DarkZero. I mean, obviously Hyper being in that awkward position, it wasn't exactly the easiest angle to hold on those stairs. You can see him cross, but you need to be hitting those shots based on the way Hyper was positioned and able to take down the diffuser. I was really interested and happy to see the setup DarkZero were going for. You know, you're trying to bring out some new stuff, see that Glass play on that Archives balcony, but now Hyper here stuck in the 1v3, just went over the opposite side of the closet, or on the filing cabinet, I should say, not a closet, but looking like here might be an effective timeout. You'll go in and bam. There it is. Rexon cleans it up. First round goes to SQ.
Yeah, he got shot at from the corner there with the 416, but he actually didn't quite realize where those bullets were coming from, so didn't end up clearing the close corner. I mean, part of the new border is that Archives room has actually been expanded quite a bit, and you know, maybe that's something that just Hyper overlooked for a moment, didn't realize that there could be someone tucked in that corner to his right, and well, by overlooking that, eventually gave up his life. But the round already was over at that point. It really was a botched execute that gave Soniqs the round win. Hyper was in position for the coverage, but Soniqs just barreled in the room, swung all the way to the other side of Archives to get around the OSHA shield and deny the plant. They did that expertly, and Hyper actually wasn't even able to pick up 1 kill on the coverage.
No, again, unfortunate position for Hyper, unfortunate round for DarkZero, because that Ying play actually worked out quite well too, so unlucky overall. But now we go all the way downstairs to Bathroom and Tellers. Remember when I was talking about how some of these sites are a little bit difficult to hold on the site? point to me where is a safe spot to sit on this site. I mean, you have bathrooms, sure, but you're not sitting in tellers. There's a window right to the site, and if it's so easy to get east control and balcony control, there is no safe place to sit in what is a good majority of the bomb site. Most teams like to play this for the retake or play it up above, open up the hatch above bathroom, and then play for it that way. Hold the site by playing off the site. We'll see how Soniqs take that way. They've got a Mute and a Mozzie to deny that intel, castle for the utility for those barricades, and a Pulse on top of all of that to add to the 3 C4s held by the defense and just a little bit more intel to sweeten the deal.
Yeah, so much explosive potential on the side of the Soniqs. Of course, DarkZero, they're going to want to echo that as much as they can. They do have 4 of those grenades, but the rest of that utility, well, it's devoted to Canadian and his, well, OSA shields. No explosive potential, rather a bit more protection for him as he chooses to work his way in the building. But DarkZero, speaking of map control, this is where they're going to set their sights, at least early on. That's what they've got to get done here. Grixer wall banged. Nice shot there from Eclipse, working his way over to the Passport double door and claiming the opening pick.
Yeah, they had a Z-ping on him, so excellent drone work by DarkZero so far. Spotting that Grixer is a little bit isolated from the rest of his team, alone inside a Passport, but now Rexon also going for a bit of an aggressive peek to bring this back. Spotted by Panba, but down the Finca goes. Excellent shot by Rexon. Back to the 4v4. That's what Soniqs need. Get a little bit aggressive, then fall back fairly soon after. East control, actually, Jonah, a little bit difficult for DarkZero to get so far. We have a Rooney stationed exactly in that area, and Kansan's got the right idea. Deny that powerful bit of control for DarkZero. They got to go other places, but this one's going to be more difficult than they might think.
And the thing with top East controls, it's very hard to take as a solo because there are so many different angles. The defense can just throw themselves at you. They can run out of a window here, run out on the balcony here. You need someone else to provide that coverage, and because Canadian is alone, he's going to have to wait a little bit longer to do it. He's going to wait for his team to join him and pressure that 90 hull. That's exactly what Hyper is trying to do. Joined by NJR as they work their way in security and break room, trying to clear their way on up and force these defenders who are positioned upstairs to fall away. They've been successful in doing that, but only 60 seconds remain.
Now we finally see the attackers fully moving on into the building. You know, we saw some presence over by Passport, saw some presence over in CCTV. Now they've taken East. They're setting up these OSA shields, but Soniqs have actually done an extremely good job at wasting this time. 40 seconds, and the attack only have this bit of control on border. Very difficult to see, but Eclipse is putting in the work right now. Cuts down super inside of the site. The C4 gone. Now this is where Soniqs need to start worrying, because it might not have been a lot of time before, but now with a man disadvantage, it's looking a bit worrisome.
Yeah, Rexon exposed here, but also trying to get aggressive, as is Yeti, who's actually retaking this top floor. DarkZero, almost all of them, in fact, everybody has dropped down, giving up top floor control. Dangerous here. Maybe Eclipse is trying to get involved. He's just going to stick this plant. Canadian does return to the top of these stairs to get that kill onto Yeti. Kansan gets one back, but now we are in a post plant. Rexon goes big and takes down Eclipse, but Canadian, a huge player in this round, will answer back onto Kansan. It is all up to Rexon. 3 kills so far. He's looking for a 4th with the C4. Comes up with nothing. Canadian now vulnerable. NJR providing the coverage from afar. So Rexon, well, he's got a chance to tease this diffuser if he wants, but right now he's hunting for these kills, running out into the lobby, trying to find something, but it's NJR who goes unnoticed by the final Soniqs defender to take him down, and DarkZero, they'll tie us up.
Overall, it was a slow clear by DarkZero, and actually a solid hold by Soniqs off the side just to deny a couple of those key positions. Even with losing Grixer early, still able to hold down the top floor for quite a long time. But once DarkZero, of course, get the kill on Grixer early, but more importantly, get the kill on the super inside of the site, they've opened it up, and now this is where the onus and responsibility falls on Soniqs to play for that retake, to play those off-site angles and try to bring that back. But unfortunately, based on the position that Rexon had in Workshop, he could not spot the planter of the ace. The other two were also outside of positions, not for their own fault. They were trying to retake top floor, an important job to do, but once DarkZero had gotten ground, they did not give it up, and maybe if that plant spot was a little different, they might have been able to find it, but unfortunately, Rexon just missed it barely.
Well, Soniqs will not go for the same bomb site again, sending tellers and bathrooms, pushing that one off until later, potentially. Right now going to vents and workshop instead. Another classic site, and on a map like Border, well, it's all about the vertical play. We're going to say it every time. There is so much soft destruction on this map. Arguably the most soft destruction of any map currently in the pool that everything is about vertical. Everything is about opening up extra angles as attacking teams and, well, as a defensive team, leveraging that soft destruction to your advantage as long as you're maintaining map control. But of course, once you give that up, that's the attacker's chance to use that against you. And to do that, DarkZero, we're going to have to find a way to clear out this top floor first.
Yeah, and Soniqs bringing a pick that I really like, just an overall adaptation to try and give them some flexibility. Grixer moving to that Oryx. He might not bring a lot in active utility, but he brings what you need to make some of these defenses work. He just brings a T5, a 1.5, and a hell of a lot of mobility with those Rayma dashes. He might not be upstairs, he might be on the same floor, but Grixer on this roam can do a lot of damage if he's able to just hit a couple spots, then back off, and overall supplement the offsite pressure for the attack. Now, Canadian has spotted him, and Grixer not aware of that drone, so they know about the area where the Oryx is sitting.
Hyper, a little spray through the wall, like you said, spotting out Grixer as he rotates, but now unsure of his exact position, just nervous potentially that there may be someone lurking around and hunting for that kill. A standoff right now, a minute in. We see Yeti positioned on those metal stairs, hoping that somebody works their way into his line of fire. But again, DarkZero, their priority right now is on the top floor. You'll have a nade come in, attempting to get this Electroclaw off the wall, rather the bandit batteries from Kansan as he positions here. But they're not going to give this up easily. In fact, Yeti and Kansan are not backing away. Even when this exothermic goes off, they're playing close on the breach. Yeti wants to get aggressive here, tempting a swing potentially, or just trying to go unnoticed, because right now, DarkZero, they're not actually pushing in.
No, they're still holding just for the moment, just waiting for them to move on in. It's a dangerous gambit by Soniqs to stay up here so early on, but if it ends up working out, and even if a couple fall, Super can play for that C4. He's also holding the window just around the corner. If DZ get over aggressive, they could fall, but finally Jonah, Yeti strikes, he takes down NJR, and you talked about that soft destruction. The sledge is down. There might not even be enough time, but DZ, they're not out of this fight just yet.
No, Pan, by coming in from above, will equalize promptly by taking down Kansan, and we're back. Just like that into a 4v4. Canadian, his turn to step up. He'll take the head of Grixer. No more Oryx in this round. No more of that mobility. It's going to be all up to Yeti here, who's trying to provide coverage on both the top floor and the bottom at the same time. This cheeky position on the top of the server rack right now. He's stunned, though. Can't do much while he waits for DarkZero to work their way in, and when 30 seconds, eventually, they're going to have to get a move on here. They've got the Finka boost to help them out, but Canadian is quite lit up here. Hyper, you can see, nervous to push on in. They don't seem to have a lot of intel to work with. They don't seem aware of Yeti's position up top. Hyper walks right in, and Yeti gets his double. Panba not in position nor moving at all to get one back. Spots out the leg of one, but misses, drops down, gets it. But again, Yeti onto Panba. Where's Eclipse getting this bomb down? Nowhere to be found. It's Soniqs who win the round on time.
And that armory hold up top had to be the defining factor in that round. We mentioned how important the vertical is and how powerful it can be when the attack has it, when they can open up that floor and put pressure onto vents and put pressure onto workshop. But that was denied by Soniqs the entire time, actively and aggressively. They hold on to it for 2 minutes, and even when that breach opens, does Yeti retreat? Do the other SQ roamers retreat? No, they do not. They play, and Yeti even gets a kill. DZ might have answered back with 2, and that's certainly a very good play by them. But for so much time, 2/3 of the round to be wasted on that top floor, they're not able to make any inroads toward the site. I'm amazed it even came down to a 2v2. That just shows the DZ for making the most of a bad situation.
Well, Soniqs pulling that one out, what felt like this by the skin of their teeth, but making it happen. And well, now they can move on, find another site, play it with some confidence. It's actually going to be Customs and Stock right now as they work their way over to the other side of that bottom floor, the southwest corner that again makes DarkZero, well, forces them to decide, choose between a couple of options here. The classic border decision, do you want to go direct, in this case through that detention wall, pushing your way in, going direct through Passport and working your way into the other side, or like we can see Soniqs setting up, do you want to clear that top floor and work your way down?
I mean, CC, there are a lot of avenues for the attack to go through. You can see Rexon looking through one of them right now. Tried to get a kill all the way outside into spawn. Doesn't go his way, but it's still a 5v5. He's not going to complain too much about that. But to try and deny that vertical, it's an important decision. But again, one that DarkZero, they have the couple CCTV windows. They can take east, move over to the balcony, and Soniqs, for all of those angles, have to actively contest them. It's not the kind of thing you can let slide, but as Rexon drops, he spots Hyper immediately, takes a lot of damage, and continues to harass him. but he'll hang out for the moment. Nobody dead just yet until there's Panba on.
There's the support from DarkZero, right? They come in from behind. They're not going to leave their teammates out to dry, so Rexen will fall the opening pick now to the side of DarkZero. Just the way they wanted to start. Hyper, of course, lit up in the process, but with some nice Finka boost for the remainder of this round, he should be nursed back to full HP, or at least close to, in no time. We can still see that Soniqs, despite the loss, are still trying to maintain that top floor control, and DarkZero, well, they're getting antsy, and it looks like they're going to go horizontal. We're not seeing that full top floor clear from them right now. Instead, focusing on applying pressure directly to that site.
I mean, we saw how hard they got stuck on clearing out that top floor pressure last time, trying to clear out Armory. CC might not be, or it might be a different beast, but still, this might be the best play for DarkZero, focusing on what they can control, but Super still getting active. This is SQ's secret to success on their defense. Getting aggressive, cutting down NJR. That's your nades gone. They might not have been going for vertical, but it's still a player you don't want, especially when you had the man advantage. You've now fallen. They've opened up a lot of really good positions, but because they're committing themselves to this horizontal and leaving off the avenue for the vertical, they have to push in and get these kills. They have to start winning these fights, and with Grixer's presence up above as well, if this East control fails, which so far it's not, it's about the only thing going good for DZ so far, well, except these kills.
Yeah, great kill from Panba. Hyper with the follow, and now it is Super, who got an impactful kill earlier, who needs to step up. Unfortunately, Canadian for him, takes him down, no problem. Grixer, who is still upstairs, has to work his way back down, and DarkZero are simply not going to allow that to happen. They will tie us up 2-2.
And as I was saying, because they relegated themselves to opening up both the site walls and trying to play there, it's very difficult without that vertical to try to move in and get those kills. I mean, I mentioned that playing on border, playing defense on border is a little restrictive, but if you are only just containing the site, it is still a little bit hard to push in. You have to work those angles, you have to work those picks, and that's only when you get the opportunity. Not having the vertical can hamstring you. But they're able to get the kills. Panba holding East, Hyper finally moving on in. If you're able to win even one of those fights, that's still the opportunity you needed. And so DarkZero getting that win and Soniqs immediately rotating up to Armory makes sense. This is one of the better sites. No need to do Passport twice.
Right, and it's unlikely that we're going to see DarkZero go for the same fast-paced, just sprint their way in type strategy.
No.
I'd like to see that from them. I mean, that's the kind of thing that we need to see from DarkZero if they want to have a chance of taking this out of Soniqs' hands, at least by forcing them to play that unique style. But we are, like we talked about, more likely to see them take it a bit slower in round number 5. This one, again, couple of options for DarkZero. They could go through that good old-fashioned old border ranked strategy where you just open up that armory wall and just send your way in, but more likely, we're going to see map control be a focus for DarkZero, working their way in across that top floor and just pressuring this site from as many avenues as they can.
Hey, I know you talked about that old rank strat, but that border, opening that wall, that's all reliable right there. That is the 1-2 step that you can always count on when you're attacking Armory on border. But to talk about one holdout from the previous attacking lineup, NJR on this Buck. Again, talking about old reliable, what's one thing you can do? Send Buck down below inside of Venson Workshop to open up the floor, but he's not doing that, Jonah. He's creeping up metal stairs, and what's he going to find? Maybe a roamer in CCTV or a defender in sight.
Or someone hiding under a desk in break room. That's what Yeti is doing right now. I mean, a lot of unexpected elements here in this round, but NJR, I think that surprise, he's going to give up on that for now. He'll back down and head back downstairs. Rexen will fall. Getting downed off screen, just out in the long hallway, out in 90, just falling victim to some early movement from Hyper. Not all that early, still over a minute in the round, but here's the play we're talking about. It is Yeti who's gone unnoticed, but Panba, he read that perfectly. Yeti goes drone and has no idea, again, because he is staring at the back of a metal desk. So he falls, and there is nothing that SQ can do about it. DarkZero up 2 in the man count.
Yeah, I mean, it was bold strategy, Jonah. Unfortunately, it does not pay off. And now DarkZero will go to opening that breach. They have the 5v3 right now. And SQ have to start getting active in the site, which is something they've been able to do fairly successfully on the defensive rounds they've won. So even though they're down 2 bodies, based on how they've been playing and how they've been able to win those 2 rounds, it's not unlikely they could bring this back. Well, Kansan holding angles like that loses a lot of HP. They still have some important utility, but DZ have also shown when they can enter the site, they could get those kills, get those very late frags, but a nice shot by Grixer makes that a little bit more testy.
Yeah, Grixer will keep Soniqs in the mix here, but they're going to have to really get Kansan involved. They're going to have to get the rest of this team to step up, and here come the flashes. Here comes the action. Grixer gets 3, but he's not much longer for this world. You've got, again, NJR creeping in from behind, just desperate to do some kind of crouch walk play by the end of the round, who puts DarkZero on top. They'll take the lead.
And really, this entire half, we still have one more round, so it could be completely different, but the entire half so far has been those execute frags. Who can get those kills pushing into the site? Whatever work you do, whatever man advantage you have going in, whether it's Soniqs' 2 defenses or DarkZero's 3 attacks, it's all been a matter of, okay, we've set up our plan, who can get the kills in the end? You'd think that's how every round in Siege comes down to, but sometimes teams lose all their roamers, sometimes they lose all their anchors, and the players off-site have to rotate back. But it has been a stall between these two teams, a stalemate for a good portion of the round, and it's only then do DarkZero push in and win, or SQ fend off the Horde and get those kills. Now, going to Ventilation Workshop is a fairly similar story, except this one went the way of the Soniqs and not DarkZero.
DarkZero bringing out a lineup that's worked for them most so far. It's a classic lineup, emphasizing the use of the Finka. It's not too shocking to see the Finka so prevalent here on Border. We've talked about how much fragging potential this map can bring to a lobby, and, well, the Finka is perfect for the attacking team to just have a nice little bonus in terms of every single engagement they walk into. And during the ban phase, this is a map where we suspected we might see that Finka ban, but I honestly think both teams on the attacking side, they didn't want to deal with the lack of the Finka. They wanted to have her on their side as much as they could.
One thing I actually want to talk about, by the way, we will have a rehost coming through. I believe we'll have to see. It's requested. We'll see if it's confirmed. But one thing I want to talk about is we saw for just a second. We saw it teased by Hyper, but he backed off of it. We saw the Cali for just a second, and that's actually an operator I think could do DarkZero, and of course we will have that tech pause, I think could actually do DarkZero some good on their attack. They got stalled very hard on that armory clear, and while Cali can be a bit of a situational op, many players don't really like her that much because, well, you have a sniper as your primary, and in close quarters maps like Border, unless you're holding East, you're not going to find a lot of uses for it, but those Lances, her gadget, can actually do a really good job of clearing the bandit batteries off that wall. So if Hyper were to have stuck with that, I actually think that could have solved one of their big issues.
Well, I guess one of the big issues for Soniqs as well, I mean, it's just, I feel like maintaining map control for a certain amount of time, it just hasn't been working
hard on
for them.
Border.
It's so hard on Border. So, I mean, not to get too hard on them, but we're seeing a couple of creative strategies to alleviate that, right? One example is Yeti hiding under a table, hoping to just maintain some control of that top floor by popping up and surprising somebody.
I suppose that's a strat.
It's some kind of strat. It's risky, and it obviously did not work for them whatsoever, but that's the kind of thing you need to do as a defensive team on this map. You've got to pull out all the stops.
Yeah, it is. Going for those ratty plays, it's not always reliable, and I'm sure when Yeti went to hide behind this desk, he wasn't like, oh, this is going to work. This is 100% going to be successful. He's like, I got to do something. We need to get a kill. You know what? I'll hide behind the desk, and hey, maybe they won't drone me. Maybe they'll be so focused on other portions of the map, I can pop out and get a kill. Fortunately, he got checked, and I imagine that was not, an unlikely possibility in his mind. He was probably well acquainted and made his peace with that before it ended up happening. But as you said, that's the kind of thing that happens on Border sometimes. But overall, if Soniqs get a 3-3 half on the defense, I think they can go into their attacks feeling pretty good, at least for how this map plays. So even if they lose this round, it won't be great. Going down 4-2, not the best, but 3-3, that's pretty damn good for Border.
And we're still getting a read on what this map is and how it is going to play out.
Still very new.
Across not only in the NAL, but across the entire international Siege scene. Right now, according to the statistics we have in the NAL, it is very barely defensive-sided with a 58% overall defensive win rate, but it is still so back and forth, and we don't have enough of an actual sample size to know, is it attacker-sided, is it defensive-sided, and it's odd to say that right now the statistics are leaning defense given the map this is, the fact that repick is here, and everything else that this new meta brings.
And that's why whenever I talk about how the defensive sites are constructed on Border, that's why I clarify it with being how the map is constructed. Because while Border might not be the easiest time to play on-site on the defense, it's also still a new map. A map that sure might have been in the pool 1-2 years ago, but it's still something that teams have to relearn, have to get their feet wet again, get accustomed to it a second time around, or if you weren't around then for the first time. So that's when I talk about it's hard to play defense. It's hard to make it work on the sites that you're given. But again, it's a new map and it's a limited sample size that the defense seems to be favoring it so far. Of course, if Soniqs get this next round, it won't be a defender-sided one. It'll just even out 3-3, and we'll see going back to Ventilation Workshop if they can make it even.
A tall task, though, because we've seen DarkZero continuing to heat up, stay flexible, which is not something we generally, not a word we usually use to characterize this DarkZero roster. But right now, staying clean, staying loose, and staying adaptable, showing that, well, if Soniqs change it up, throw a unique defensive setup at them, that DarkZero has been able to take that into account, adjust their strategy on the fly. But one element of this attack that has been oddly consistent is we are seeing some individual play, some well-timed, some possible rat plays coming in from DarkZero. This case, we see Panba working his way in.
The attack equivalent of Yeti sitting below a desk. Of course, he's not sitting prone below anything, but he's creeped his way down east stairs and again holding an important position of the map, a key rotation for the defense. And there's two looking to make his way over towards him right now. One of them being Grixer, takes a little bit of damage, and what does he do, Jonah? He runs away, heads back into the site. No point trying to contest that, especially with Panba playing with that Finka LMG in such a powerful spot.
You can see the drones that DarkZero have set up, the intel working for them so well right now. NJR gets that opening pick, takes down Yeti. Of course, the Aruni already utilizing that utility, putting it down and just setting it up and forgetting it, but losing him, losing that gun for the late round. Well, Soniqs cannot be happy about that.
No, they cannot whatsoever. Soniqs, by the way, aside from just a couple rounds, 4-0 on the end, or well, 4 kills on the entry, and even one round got it traded, but that's the thing. Soniqs can still always mount to fight back. Kansan takes down Eclipse, and that's the Thermite gone. Sure, taking down the Aruni, that's whatever. I guess she can't punch walls anymore, but that's your only hard breacher. And what was their big issue? Clearing out Armory. Before they were able to open the wall, now they can't even get that.
Oh, that's going to be an issue that plagues them, especially as we work our way under the minute mark in round number 6. But Hyper is just in the site and getting involved early. He'll take the fight onto Rexen and win it. Of course, Rexen will answer back and take him down. Rather, it was Grixer who fell a moment ago, but Super is here, and he is going to stay in this fight. Panba dropping down, hoping he can get something going with this LMG.
Oh.
He gets Super through the wall.
Oh.
Only one more to find now. It is all up to Rexen. He had a key kill a moment ago. Can he get another? DarkZero, they have time to slow this down. They have 40 seconds. That is ample time to take the pace of this round down, go for this plant, and really force Rexen into their hands. You see the nades coming in to delay. NJR now sticking this plant. The pre-fire from Rexen just barely misses. Now he'll have to get off and look for this fight elsewhere. Now it's a post plant. NJR backing off. Panba backing off. Both low. Yes, they both could fall to Rexen here if he times this right, but he has to find them first. Didn't find the player up above. One player outside that vents window. Now on the rappel, sitting up top, waiting for Rexen to make the move. There's the first. Takes down Panba. 1 versus 1, but 20 seconds. Rexen needs to step up now. NJR on the upside down rappel, though. All he has to do is wait for the opportune moment to strike, and there is nothing that Rexen can do. He'll stick the diffuser.
What?
He'll stick the diffuser. No, he gets off it. Might have had a chance there, but NJR will eventually get the kill. A messy exchange in those closing seconds, but DarkZero will take the half 4-2.
I have to say, my heart dropped when NJR did not shoot him immediately and that diffuser reached 1 second left. I got very scared that that was going to be the way it was, a 3-3 half. But overall from DarkZero, you might not have thought that once the Thermite died, they would end up winning that round, but they made the exact call they needed to in that situation. Hey guys, we struggled to clear Armory with the breach open. It's closed now, and we have no way of opening it. At that point, the call was made, the right one, that they just need to go on the site and get those kills. There's nothing else they can really do at that point, so that's what they do. Hyper goes in, Panba goes in, works out, not perfectly, but works out well enough to get them the advantage, cause enough chaos for Soniqs, and Panba especially getting a very nice 2-piece. If you struggle to clear out the top floor and you don't have a lot of time, or well, don't have a lot of time for what you would prefer, you just got to send it on in. But now we go to DarkZero's defenses, and they're leaning very heavily into that roam right now. We see the Pulse and the Vigil, the duo likely, giving intel to one and the other acting off of it.
I gotta say, I am loving what we're seeing from DarkZero so far.
Me too.
A true test of this new team. Like, coming into the stage, DarkZero, the idea behind this revitalization, right? They wanted to create something that they just haven't been able to achieve before. A team that can work with different styles, different maps, adapt to the meta, and this test of Border is showing us that they can. That they don't just have to play that methodical sit back 20-second execute style of Siege. That when they see an opening, even if they lose their Thermite, a core element of their attack, that they can adapt and make something happen. Opening duel this time goes to the Soniqs. It is Kansan who takes the fight against Hyper, and, well, that fancy style I just talked about, the DarkZero adaptability, it'll have to wait a little bit longer to come in, as, whoa, my goodness, Soniqs are tearing them apart. It's Rexen through the wall who takes down the Pulse of Canadian.
I literally mentioned 2 players on DarkZero, and they're both the ones that go down first. I'm sorry, that one's my bad, boys. I'll take the L for you on that one. Soniqs getting a major opening in the first minute of the round. DZ holding the entry game firmly on the attacking half, and right now losing it dramatically going into their defenses. See the Osa for Rexen already setting up in position downstairs, inside of lobby, outside of tellers. Big positions that Soniqs have achieved right now so early on, and when Eclipse goes to peak, he falls too. This is looking like a Soniqs round if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, no kidding. A minute 45 left, so much on the clock, and Soniqs, well, they have so little work left to do. They've just got to pick up these last 2 players, and, well, if they want to get the bomb down with only 2 defenders in their path, not much they're going to be able to do to stop it. NJR no longer has that C4. No other forms of plant denial, and speaking of, there goes the Cade, done and dusted. Final player alive, well, that's Panba. He's going to try to stop Super to go for the plant, but he can do nothing. Tries to even retake that top floor, but never had a chance. It is Soniqs who come back and take a flawless round at the half. Good start.
We've mentioned it time and time again on the broadcast so far. During the duration of this game, you have to be good on that realm or holding that map control to really have a chance in these rounds. Denying positions like CCTV, or if you want to play a little bit more fast and loose, getting a kill or 2 when you need be. And the Vigil and the Pulse combo was what DZ was betting on to do that, and they died in the first 45 seconds. What do you have left on Teller's Archives? We said it earlier, you're not going to play directly on the site. You got to play for the retake. And then they all collapsed as well. SQ got so much map control and so much of what they needed in such a short amount of time. There was basically no way that was going DZ's way unless they got those kills, and we all know how that ended.
Well, DZ, that one wasn't even close. So they've got to find a way to bounce back here. Changing up the site certainly could help as they head over to now Vents and Workshop, setting up a bit of a vertical extension. The use of those castle barricades, those mute jammers, those reinforcements, all in an attempt to maintain as much map control for as long as they can. The beauty of Border is that a lot of these bomb sites, if the defense plays it right, they can make the entire map feel like
That's
a bomb
good point.
site.
That is a very good point. That is something that if you really have a really strong roam presence, you can make it seem that way. With a castle especially, you can make a lot of places on Border really feel like extensions of the site with those 4 panels, rotate holes made, reinforcements, and Cade claws dedicated. It's a fair point. If you're able to keep all that on lock, it really is like the site can take up half of the map. But that is the problem with it. It's a prerequisite. It has to be strong, and if that falls, the site is not looking good afterwards. But DZ have done exactly that. They've reinforced that wall leading outside onto the east balcony. It's reinforced. It's electroclawed. They're holding out inside of Armory like you would expect when it's a Ventilation's Workshop defense. We have to see how Soniqs have to take this down. No Osa to hold east this time, but a Nomad and a Zero to hold flanks. They still have plenty of utility to make that happen.
Well, with 60 seconds off the clock, Soniqs starting to reveal their intentions on this approach. Kansan seems interested in working his way down below. He's got the drone of Super to give him some extra intel to work with as the Soniqs try to work their way in up above. You see the rappel in on the balcony, and we also see Grixer working his way in on the complete opposite side of the map right now, maybe hoping to catch a DarkZero defender unaware, because Soniqs right now, it is just about making that entry, which it seems they've been successful in doing.
We'll see a C4 go over by Hyper as well, and unfortunately misses, but he's looking to get aggressive as those players move through the breach and look into offices, as it's just now opening up. Might have an opportunity to do that, but he drops a little bit further back. and will instead see, with only a minute left, Soniqs just now finally entering the building. Though Kansan, he's actually made it inside a bathroom, so he's quite far up. Could be pernicious for the defense to deal with, but it's actually Grixer who gets the most active early on. But there's Panba, of course, to jump right back in.
Yeah, Panba making it happen again, taking the life of Yeti, who's been pretty key in these opening engagements so far. But look at what the Soniqs have going for them now. Not a lot of time, and only 2 drones remaining if you take a look at the top left of your screen. Still seems, though, that without the drones, they've got a good bit of intel, because Rexon is able to spot out the location of another DarkZero defender and take his life down to the grave. With 35 seconds, though, it is Sonic's turn to move.
And there goes all of the drones left for DarkZero. They got to rely on only those Zero cameras right now to get any remaining bit of intel they can. They've got the kills so far, and in the 4v3 it might work, but it's still problematic.
Yeah, Grixer, you know he spots out the head of another. It's actually Super who ends up claiming that kill. Hyper goes down. Panba now rolling through, tries to get something back, but can't. All on the shoulders of NJR, who picks up one. Spots out Rexon, can't quite finish him off, though. But Soniqs, they've got to find a way to get this bomb down or find the last kill. NJR ends up exposing himself to the angle long held by the Soniqs, and with another strong attacking round, the Soniqs will tie us up 4-4.
And if you take a look at that round again, we mentioned extending so far off the site, how you can make everything feel like home on border. It has to hold, though. It's got to hold, and even then, they hold that top floor. They hold office and archives for 2 whole minutes. They destroy every single drone the Soniqs had to their names, leaving them only with those Zero cameras. And what happened? Soniqs are still able to push in, they're still able to win those fights, and that's what makes the difference on border. If you can clear out that extension and still get a kill or 2, get the advantage going in, you're still looking pretty. That's the problem with defense on border sometimes that these teams run into.
Well, it's DarkZero who are now in need of a defensive solution. We haven't seen them get overly active on the roam, and I suppose that's up to Panba to really develop. He is playing that Oryx and has the ability to get a bit crazy, to get a bit loose with it, and start running at the Soniqs, contesting them at their early entry point.
And that's, I think, a really good thing and a really good adaptation by DarkZero. We'll see how it obviously shakes up. Panba could die early on, just like Hyper did on their first round on the roam. But if that attempt previously didn't exactly work, you know, putting all of your eggs in holding that top floor, and then once it gets opened up, the site pressure ends up the site presence ends up faltering a little bit. Having Panba be on an Oryx, be a little bit more flexible, able to Rima dash certain places or sprint certain places and support where he can, that could be just a little bit enough to fend off the Soniqs pressure. Even if it falls, make it a bloody fight as they go down towards the site. Right now it's still NJR, or still Hyper I should say, excuse me, holding the same position he did previously, but Panba inside of CCTV also joining him very soon on this top floor.
Yeah, really trying to contest and hold this top floor as long as they can, seeing if this adjustment could put them in a good spot. And again, we've got to ask, are the Soniqs going to head straight through that, or are they going to work their way in and go beneath and go direct? Because right now, these DarkZero defenders up above, where's the pressure they're facing? It's not coming from the east nor the west. They're sitting pretty comfortable right now. The Soniqs are yet to make a move. Again, only 60 seconds in. It's not the biggest deal in the world here, but DarkZero, they're trying to waste time, and right now it's working.
Yeah, Hyper prepped with the C4 right there, just like he was previously. He'll put it back. Still a couple of attackers primed on that top floor to move in if the call is given, but they haven't just yet. Kansan also working his way into the same position he did before, and now Hyper's starting to feel the pressure. He's got that C4. They're just outside. They're distracted with players on main right now. This is a good opportunity for Hypers to spring the trap.
C4 goes up, out, and over, but finds nothing. He'll drop away and retreat to safety. A missed opportunity, moments, inches away, in fact, from getting that kill onto Rexon, but instead, the Zero will be able to continue to set up cameras, giving more intel to the side of a Soniqs team who struggled with their drone economy in the last round, under a minute to go.
Under a minute to go, and whereas before they had 2 drones, now they have 5 on top of those Zero cams that they had previously, but it's still Hyper with the first pick. Kansan putting pressure inside a bathroom is an important little addition to the Soniqs attack that can make things a little bit more palatable going into the site. Now that he's fallen, DarkZero can sit a little bit more comfortably on top of their vertical control still being fairly intact. Panba 2 down below. DZ might just be able to bring this one home.
Rexon, though, creeping in, and Eclipse fries him on a pixel angle with that ump. Now it is up to Super and Grixer, who are just going to send it in the sight. Super just making the crouch walk in the middle of Workshop, and you're right, Hyper had no idea. Thankfully, he's got a teammate close behind. NJR will answer and take him down, leaving it all up to Grixer with very little time remaining. The nade will force NJR to go prone and duck behind the coverage, but Grixer, he simply cannot look in 4 different places at once. The diffuser out of pocket, the time dwindling away. DarkZero changing up the defense and focusing so much more on that top floor hold. We saw Panba getting aggressive, getting active. Look at that. It worked.
It is true, but also much of that was, at least on the office side of things, fairly similar to what they did before. Full reinforce, Kate Electroclawed. It's what they had previously, and Soniqs were still able to focus on that and get a couple kills and get some map control on, or at least taking down that roam. This time, they don't even look towards it. Don't even pay any attention to it whatsoever. They almost pull one of the OXG or SSG strategies. They're just like, all right, you can do that, whatever. It's chill. We'll just, leave that be. Except it's not that the roam, obviously Panba getting active once he dropped back down to the site made a big difference, but it's not like, they got 4 kills, 5 kills. It was really the site players getting a lot of those kills come the final minute. So I'm wondering what SQ decided to change up their take for, because it seems like it ended up just not really amounting to much throughout that whole round.
Well, DarkZero having finally found something, they will head over to Tellers and Bathroom now to see if they can make something happen. This defensive lineup, once again, a little intel focus on the side of Canadian. Last time we saw him on the pulse, he did end up dying pretty early, and Soniqs ended up delivering that flawless round. So that's something he's going to try to avoid this time, as of course will Hyper. Not necessarily intel focused for the defense, but focused on denying the intel that we've talked about from the Soniqs already. Of course, right now, top left of your screen, you can see that 9 drones remain for the Soniqs, but keep an eye on this number, because on this map, DarkZero have been doing a very nice job at limiting the Soniqs' ability to keep those drones in play.
There's also a new addition by the Soniqs for their lineup. Yeti bringing out the Dokkaebi. This could be something when they go for that clear or try to hunt down Hyper and Canadian. They got the 2 kills early on, but while that was some good positioning, I think it was also some fortuitous timing for the Soniqs as well. This will be a good addition in tandem with that Lion to really make Hyper and Canadian very uncomfortable off the site. So I like that addition by the Soniqs with Rexon on the Osa as well to hold down East Stairs if he wants to. Soniqs are in a very good spot to turn the tables on the defense. If the defense wants to make it like home, with this lineup the Soniqs are running, they can certainly make themselves a campfire.
Well, Soniqs now pivoting a little and focusing on a horizontal push. You do see one player up above. That is Yeti, but the action now unfolding down below in Passport. It is Rexon at the helm, Osa shield in his face, working his way in and clearing his way through the site. Now setting up this shield, facing that double door that can look all the way across this entire first floor, mind you. Ideally choking off the rotation of DarkZero, preventing them from getting as active as they were in that previous round. While the rest of that team, while 2 players on the Soniqs are down below, maybe a third on the entry, there's actually Canadian who gets taken down through the wall.
Yeah, that Pulse can no longer look at the attack setting up inside of waiting room right now. Grixer, Rexon, they can chill there and they don't have to worry about that heartbeat scanner, but Hyper's still alive. He's still got that ERC to roam around the map, and Panba is in customs as well. So you don't have the Pulse providing intel, but you have Panba holding the angle. Hyper actually inside a bathroom, not on the roam like we might have initially thought. So really, it's Panba to try and provide that offside pressure, and Hyper with the nice angle looking in the sight.
Good flashes, though, so Hyper cannot hold that angle off if the Soniqs do want to push in now. The toxic smoke will come out, and, well, Super's going to go for it anyway, hiding just beneath the smoke. He'll be able to stick this plant. Grixer will get felled by Pan, but actually he'll get 2 with that UMP in hand, going big on the castle. Again, can he get 3? Just barely. Rexon will take him down, though, trading that kill onto his IGL back, but it is just Rexon and Kansan to hold this in a post plant against 3. But DarkZero, they need to get active now. Losing Hyper is going to be a problem. NJR and Eclipse, are they anywhere to be found? You've got him close on the other side, and Eclipse does go down to 1 HP, picking up the down as he goes, but it is NJR. He comes out of nowhere, getting the last 2, and DarkZero are able to retake the site and get the counter defuse.
Let's do a compare and contrast real quick. We did it in English class. Let's do it right here. What did we have in the first Teller's attack? 2 roamers off site, 2 roamers dead in the first 45 seconds, and a flawless round come the end of round number 7. Now, what did we have that time? Canadian being the first pick, the pulse going down, so we have that little similarity in the middle of the Venn diagram, but the big difference that we had was Panba surviving inside of customs. Hyper might not have been off the site, but he didn't need to. He was holding bathroom, and by the way, some nice utility placement by SQ, I will say so, but Panba able to hold that position, and Soniqs not only letting it happen, but not even aware he was there. He picks up 3 kills just from that spot. That just tipped things and made it even sweeter for DZ's defense, despite it going to the post plant.
Well, it's a timeout now because Soniqs know they are facing match point. Currently 6-4, DarkZero in the lead. Soniqs in need of a 2-round comeback to keep themselves involved and send this one to overtime. Again, desperately searching for that second win. They won't mind if it's an overtime or regulation. They just want another win under their belt here. And of course, DarkZero, we call them the overtime kings of the West for well, a pretty good reason. They love going to overtime and pulling out the wins in the late game. Maybe Soniqs can take advantage of that and just get us back to overtime, flipping the script, taking it themselves, of course, but we are a long way there. Soniqs need to find a way to bridge this gap. DarkZero pretty much coming out of nowhere and taking the last 2 defensive rounds after Soniqs started off the half so well. But now it's DarkZero's game, and now the onus, like you said earlier, on the Soniqs to change it up.
But we're moving to customs right now, which, as we saw the Soniqs defend on their attempt, they held CCTV very effectively. DZ said, all right, you guys have that. We'll just, we'll have our fun down on the middle floor, and we'll try to put pressure on the site that way. They open up 2 of the breaches and then just try to play picks, and it ends up working out. SQ, that's a very risky game to play, and especially when you're on map point. That's the difference maker, because if all you do is open up those 2 breaches and try to work those angles, you're at risk of, well, not finding those kills or maybe even stalling out too much on the attack and ending up losing that out. So for SQ, it might be a bit risky, but maybe clearing that roam is the play here. If, well, there is one, because right now there's only 2 players on the site, so it might be a little bit.
Well, some change coming in from Soniqs. You actually talked about the Cali way earlier on, and finally, we are seeing her come out. The one recipe that attacking teams could leverage here to deal with any sort of hard breach denial. In fact, we see very little of that on the side of DarkZero. It's going to be the mute, of course, in play. That is one element, but as far as the rest, well, it is just going to be up to Soniqs to get something going. You see Canadian down below trying to get active, trying to find the scoreboard again. It's been a while since he's found one. And, well, now that he's not on the pulse, maybe he can stay alive a bit longer.
Yeah, maybe he's able to make something now that he's got the MP5 and not the heartbeat scanner in hand. But Kansan, he worked his way into bathroom last time, but now he's gone the distance with the spot. He's moved in here from bathroom to vents. But Canadian, there you go. He's got that first kill. The player lurking downstairs falls. No more buck, no more flashbangs, and no more attacker who could get the jump on the defense.
Oh, that's going to sting for the Soniqs. You really need Kansan in a situation like this. That skeleton key, a vital resource in terms of forcing the defense to rotate up above. You do not have that vertical destruction that you were geared up coming in this round with.
Yeah, you can say goodbye to that. But I suppose hello to Yeti holding the broken monitor with a sniper rifle right now, just peering on in. Might be able to still hold a very long angle, taking up the Kansan position inside a bathroom. Bam! There he goes, but unfortunately misses the one shot onto Canadian. Canadian will just sit there right now, waste a little bit of time, dodge the nade as well. But if he wants to, Jonah, the benefit of right here, he's not going to get a kill, but he can always be the focus of the SQ attack, draw their attention away from the prize, away from overtime, and just stay inside events and burn more of that clock.
Yeah, look how well it's working right now. I don't think he minds if he lives or dies at this point, because he has wasted 2 minutes off the clock, essentially. Now 2 minutes 15. Soniqs are limited in terms of time, in terms of drones, in terms of manpower. They have to make a decision. Right now, look at Super. He's just holding an angle. They're not getting as active as they need to. Finally, it's Rexon's time to step up.
Still focused on Canadian, too. They're wasting a lot of time to clear this Malusi. He finally goes down, but what is there to gain for it?
Rexon, he's able to get that kill, but now he needs to find another. There is simply no time to dilly-dally. You're back in a 4v4, but look at this. It's going to be up to Grixer and up to Rexon. They forget forgot about Panba. He'll step around, swing from the middle stairs, getting Rexon and taking him down. Grixer, though, on the coverage. Yeti getting one with the pocket F2, taking him down. But Hyper and NJR, they'll go big, a triple kill between them, and just like that, DarkZero will silence the Soniqs once again.
And in some ways, that round was like many of the others. You had the difference that was Canadian wasting so much time drawing and tanking a lot of the attention that SQ were putting on him, and when in reality they still had a site to execute on, but SQ still made it close, and it came down to the same factor a lot of those previous rounds did. Just who can get the kills? Who can push in when things are looking grim and still get 1, 2, 3 frags to make the difference? So I have to admire SQ's ability to make it close right there, and they might have taken the L, but still a 7-4 loss to a DarkZero on the come-up. Still a solid attempt nonetheless.
I can't believe we're saying great job Soniqs, right? They gave their good try.
Yeah,
That's where we're at in this stage, though, aren't we? I mean, it's the Soniqs who just have been underperforming, and like you said, it is DarkZero continuing to make a name for themselves and work their way up the leaderboard. This is exactly what they were looking for. We talked about their desire to propel themselves to that next level, to get themselves over the edge and really make sure that they are a top 4 team to stay.
And maybe they'll just be. Of course, we have so many teams on the come up in the NAL. Astralis from last year, OXG's dominance this year. They might be able to make their way into the top 4, but it's not like there's any slouches up there right now, and plenty of hungry teams on the come up to try and make their name in the NAL. But of course, again, good work to DZ. Excellent victory today. And for the Soniqs, it might have been a loss, but again, it was an admirable one nonetheless.
Yeah, and again, it's these players on DZ we talked about who are continuing to, honestly, not just the new players, not just someone like Panba, who's that young CL gun we love to talk about, but these players who have been on this roster for quite some time who may not have had the performance that they wanted in 2021. Some of the underperformers that hampered this team as a whole, especially on that international stage, but at least so far in this stage of the NAL domestic competition,
Doing good.
they're doing great. They're looking good. They're putting up numbers, and even for teams like that were the NAL champs of last stage, even for teams like that, I mean, no competition for DarkZero.
Yeah, able to take the victory today. And overall, Jonah, I'm just glad to see it. Glad we see a clean victory. First border again for me out of the way. First new map in the pool since I've been casting this season. I'm just happy it was a good one. And hey, that's it for you and me as well. That's it for us.
Yes, it's a bummer to say that, but it is the end of week 3 as a whole. It is it for you and I. I hope we get a chance to do this again, but we are going to send it, of course, to a quick break before we bring in our desk to wrap things up for the day. Thank you all once again for supporting us and tuning in. We'll send you to a quick break. When we come back, our host, our analyst desk, those beautiful faces, they'll be back.
Scoring every day. Champagne Perrier. 6'9", been in the box now, stepping up tone. Like straight out the sandlot, now flying on the floor. I work hard, I show love, that calm and steady grind. Got this far, I go hard, let God take control. I was starving skinny, now my weight up, got no energy for haters. See you transform.
Another 3 points for DarkZero. Another loss for the Soniqs. It feels like, with the exception of yesterday, everything is just kind of business as usual. And we've got Panba from DarkZero to talk us through exactly how in the world they were able to pull this one back from the brink. Actually, it looked very much like another day at the office for a Border game, but we'll see if that actually was the intended result. If we like Border, if DarkZero wants to go to new maps. Panba, congratulations on the victory. It's good to bring you in on the interview. Talk me through DZ and new maps. We've seen you guys usually ban out the other ones like Skyscraper and Theme Park, not usually in your repertoire, but what do you personally think of Border?
I think Border is it's honestly a pretty fun map. You know, I haven't played competitive for too long, so I never played Border until like a few weeks ago when they added it. The main reason we haven't been playing the new maps is because like we just didn't want to take new teams to it, but now that we're playing like more established teams like, you know, TSM, Soniqs, we're perfectly fine with going to the new maps, and I think they're pretty good maps.
Well, okay, Panba, you've been on this team, you've been playing in Tier 1 for a little while now. What has been the thing that's been kind of worked on throughout the offseason? Obviously, you came back from SI, you had a decent result, you know, maybe not the hammer that you wanted, but you still played pretty well. What have you been working on in the offseason and then over these last couple of weeks? Because your stage so far has been good, but there have been some shaky moments.
I guess like the biggest thing we've been working on is just trying to find like consistency, you know. At Invite, we started off very poor, did really good, and then like ended off, you know, not the best, and just that's kind of how our NAL stages go as well. We just need to try to find like consistency. That's what we've been working on as a team, just trying to refine like all the little things.
Alrighty, so your final 3 games of the stage go Exet, Space Station, and Oxygen. Those are 3 very difficult games. Is there anybody you're necessarily like really worried about, or on the other side maybe really excited to play against?
I'm specifically excited to play Exet. Like 3/5 of those guys I've been best friends with for years now, and to see them finally make the league, you know, it's been amazing. I've been having so much fun with them, and I'm so excited to play them. I think that will be a great match.
So you jumped onto this roster quite a while ago, like Jesse mentioned, but if you had to figure out where the team sits these days after SI, after having, you know, a major and a previous stage of the NAL under your belt so far, if you had to give me a percentage, where do you think you guys are operating at? Is it at 50%? Is it a little bit above it? Are you kind of running full steam ahead? If you had to gauge it, where would you say you're at right now?
I don't know about a percentage, but I think we're doing really well. You know, we had a rough week last week, only got 1 point, but I think we're in pretty good form right now. Super excited to finish off the season pretty strong. Like you said, we do play 3 of our harder games, but I think they'll be good. I think we can close it out 3-0, but we'll see.
All right. Hey, strong words. You're going to enter the gauntlet and you think you'll get 3 dubs. I'm certainly hoping for your sake you'll be able to do it because a major berth is in question at this point. But still, congratulations. Good week from you guys overall. Enjoy this victory, and hopefully we'll see you back here for the interview at some point down the road. Have a good one, man.
Hopefully not, but thank you.
All right, thanks, Panba. Well, if we're looking at this from DZ's perspective, still in that top 4 to 5 conversation, like the pendulum for who's actually going to get that last spot continues to swing between a couple different teams at this point, of Beast Coast and DarkZero and Space Station now like kind of having a little bit of a fall from grace, but still, for DZ, this is a very successful week.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we talked earlier about how a lot of the teams this league have been able to get the 3 points off of the Soniqs. And DarkZero, while they were maybe a little bit more expensive, they had to give up 4 rounds for it, they still found those 3 points. That's going to contribute to their chances of making it to the major. All in all, the kid that we were just talking to, Pambazoo, definitely going to be the MVP in this matchup, 14-9. I felt like he had a really good second half. Some of his swings were really finding a lot of value, and the clears as well were also very strong.
Yeah, and one of the things that we focused on in the early game for the side of this matchup was DZ historically struggling a little bit on the entry. And hey, look.
Right, yeah.
They got a 6-5 split against a pretty solid Soniqs roster, solid fraggers. So, steps in the right direction. Always great. Sure, everybody's kind of having to get a piece of the pie. You even have Eclipse coming in and having entry engagements. Not necessarily the most ideal situation, but if it gets done, it gets done.
Well, I mean, this is what we were seeing previously. It was kind of all on Hyper to get those opening engagements. Everybody else was like falling short. So now if we're seeing that spread out a little bit, I actually kind of like that because finally we're able to see like that burden be spread across the rest of the squad. And so there's no one player that's like really tanking the entry stat anymore. And I think that's been a big help for DarkZero.
4-2 when they were playing on defense on this map, and then when we make the swap over, we're seeing a Soniqs do what they can to try to attack. I do like referring to the very last round, in this case round 11, as an example of everyone just trying to stop Canadian, and he, not single-handedly, he has some utility help, but he prevents SQ from getting into the building. The one we want to look at more specifically is round 10, though, because there's still a Soniqs execute. They managed to get Diffuser down. They've got some decent crosses, and then what did DarkZero do?
Well, this felt like a very classic round in the second half, right? Because what we were seeing was that the Soniqs were not taking a ton of map control. They weren't able to clear the majority of the map before they would go for executes. And for a while, that was working for them. And I do love this plant from Super because he's just under the smoke. Likely DZ think that this is not going on right now, but it goes down without their knowledge. But here's Pambazoo coming from Passport, headed towards the bomb site, going on such a big flank. That's 3 big kills, and that was probably my favorite moment from Pamba throughout this game. Perfectly timed to come all the way in through custom. And now Soniqs, despite having the kit down, they're in that man disadvantage. There's a nice little swing here that's going to shut down Rexon through the soft wall if you can catch it, even though there's EE1Ds beautifully done right there by Eclipse. 1 HP after that engagement. Rexon alone loses it to NJR. So that was like just a really defining round, I felt, for the half overall, because you see that early round where they're not able to finish off the majority of the map clear, and then they go into that execute and somebody's able to clutch up and make it happen.
Yeah, and the biggest thing was, once again, you were saying the timing of Pamba, because it's not like he went in and tried to stop the plan. He stopped the coverage of the plan. All of a sudden, that retake became so incredibly easy, because sure, you have Osa shields, but you're not playing them anymore. You have square control, but wait, there's nobody in square. The bomb is planted in a position that as soon as the attackers kind of try to leave sight, the defenders can just walk back in, and all the control in the world made it so easy for DZ. Beautiful read.
Still makes me wonder if the Soniqs and new maps is something that's not really going to end up clicking for quite some time. We've seen them so far try essentially everything in the pool, and it's been mid-success, I'd say. Obviously, the Skyscraper was still disastrous, like after that Astralis result. This game, definitely closer than like most of those previous results were, but can the Soniqs bounce back on Battlegrounds that haven't been played before?
I mean, they haven't played Theme Park yet, and they do play TSM, the final game of the stage.
They're not going to play that.
So maybe.
Because TSM aren't going to play Theme Park.
If that goes to Theme Park, I don't know what I'm going to do. Sure, I probably won't be here, but maybe my monitor will not make it through that stream.
What, you're going to punch it?
Yeah, straight through.
Yeah,